Hi everyone and welcome back to John Florio channel. I am Mary and I'm here to talk about the second part of a series of videos that I will make on the happy years that John Florio spent with the Earl of Southampton, Henry Wriothesley, from 1591 to 1598. Now, let's start with a very simple question. Who first discovered that John Florio was under Henry's patronage? I'm saying this because I won't lie. We all know that the third Earl of Southampton is famous today for being the patron of Shakespeare, although we don't have a real proof that he was the patron of Shakespeare. As I've explained in my past videos, many writers wrote dedications to the young Earl, but this doesn't mean that they were in his pay and patronage. Shakespeare wrote two dedications to the young Earl with the rape of Lucrece and Venus and Adonis, but there is no substantial proof that he was in Henry's house like John Florio was. How we know that Florio was in Henry's pay and patronage? Because he wrote it. He wrote in a word of words that he published in 1598, even if the work was already finished and ready 2 years earlier. So in 1596, Florio wrote in the dedication to Henry, "I lived in your house, I am in your pay and patronage." But who first discovered that Florio was in Henry's pay and patronage? It was a Shakespeare scholar. Charlotte Carmichael Stopes was a British scholar, author and campaigner for women's rights. Her most successful publication was British Freewomen, Their Historical Privilege, published in 1894, a book which influenced and inspired the early 20th century British women's suffrage movement. Stopes wrote several works on the life and works of William Shakespeare, and she wrote the very first biography on the Earl of Southampton. It is titled The Life of Henry, the Earl of Southampton, Shakespeare Patron, and it was published in 1922. In the preface of her book, Stopes underlined that she began a research into the life of Henry in an attempt to find traces of Shakespeare. Sadly, she found nothing. But she found John Florio. Stopes was the very first scholar who discovered several traces of John Florio in Henry's life, especially the beautiful dedication that John Florio wrote to Henry in 1598. Let's read just an extract.
"In truth, I acknowledge an entire debt, not only of my best knowledge, but of all, yea, of more than I know or can, to your bounteous lordship, most noble, most virtuous, and most honourable Earl of Southampton, in whose pay and patronage I have lived some years, and to whom I owe and vow the years I have to live."
Wow. This dedication shows Florio's great admiration and intimacy with the young Earl. Moreover, while looking for Shakespeare, Stopes discovered that Florio's dedication echoes Shakespeare phrases. So Stopes in her book underlined that Florio wrote in this dedication to have lived some years, and she too underlined that he was a bit vague, he was a bit mysterious. So she decided to go deeper, and she discovered that Florio was already in Henry's house in the autumn of 1594. Why? Because in that years Florio was involved in a terrible case, the murder of Henry Long, a young man who was killed by Henry's friends, Charles and Henry Danvers, the Danvers brothers. This is a famous and shocking case, and it deserves a video of its own, so I will explain you in the future what this story is about and Florio's involvement in this case. He was a bit of Machiavellian personality. In her book, Stopes was able to give an interesting, reliable account of Henry's life and personality. Many scholars in the past have portrayed Harry as a vain, presumptuous young man who spent most of his life throwing parties, and I don't agree with this. Since his early career as a student, he has shown to be highly clever and especially very keen on languages. His letters written when he was 15 years old show that he had a great talent and was able to write Latin and poetry. And he was only 15 years old. Harry was also particularly sensitive towards arts, especially drama. It is true that he spent a lot of his time at theatre, and as I have explained in my past video, Florio accompanied him to see the most interesting plays of the time. So I simply believe that Harry wanted to live his life without boundaries. He was young and just wanted to have some fun. This doesn't mean that he was over-presumptuous or vain. He was talented, clever, shrewd, sensitive, maybe impulsive, and this explains why he didn't get married with a woman chosen by his family. He had his experiences until he found the one he truly loved. This is another important topic, the success that the writers had under Harry's patronage was mostly obtained thanks to his support and his involvement in their projects. This is something that scholars have never pointed out, but if we look at Harry's contemporaries, Florio's contemporaries, this is not new. Many Tudor aristocrats loved to write their own stuff, to get involved in translation or poetry and drama. For example, thanks to John Florio and his dedication in a word or words, we know that the Earl of Essex wrote behind the pseudonym A.B. and he was a close friend of Henry Wriothesley. Thomas Sackville, who Florio knew very well because he lived in his house when he wrote his translation of Montaigne essays, collaborated with Thomas Norton and wrote the tragedy Gorboduc. So I firmly believed, and this has never been pointed out before, that Henry Wriothesley collaborated with his writers like John Florio. He loved poetry, he loved drama, and showed to have a great talent in writing. It is no coincidence that under Henry's patronage there was a boom of Italian influence, both in theatre and literature. Why? It was thanks to Henry's love for Italian theatre and Italian poetry that we see such a great number of works, especially during the first years of the 1590s, filled with Italianate taste. That was Henry promoting it, thanks to the greatest expert of Italian studies with whom he lived, John Florio. Florio loved to work behind the scenes and collaborate with his friends anonymously, and I have explained in my past videos why he decided to work in this way. He had many reasons: death threats, attacks from his enemies, so he didn't mind it at all. Instead, he felt safer. In that dedication written for Henry in a word or word, John Florio in fact underlined that Henry worked with him. Therefore, they collaborated. It is also no coincidence that we find in Florio's work Second Fruits, published in 1591, the very first sonnet of the Elizabethan era. Yes, the very first sonnet of the Elizabethan era was published in a work written by John Florio. I will talk about this sonnet in the next video because it deserves great attention. So much has been said about this sonnet, lots of speculation, very few people have really understood the meaning behind it, and I think it is time to say the truth. I hope that you liked this video on John Florio and Henry Wriothesley. Let me know if you have questions, suggestions, or you want to comment. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe. Stay resolute. Bye!